Hi, my name is Benjamin from Asamby Consulting. Welcome to episode 4 of our video series, Scaling from Within. Today I want to talk about standard operating procedures, so documents or software-based documentation of your processes in your company. And specifically I want to look at how do you design the level of detail on the one hand and the use of media within your standard operating procedures for different use cases. Because it's your document, you can design it as you want, right? But I think there are certain parameters that influence your level of detail and the use of media. So the first standard operating procedure I want to start with, the first use case is I write standard operating procedures for onboarding purposes. So you want to bring on new people and you want to look at the level of detail and the use of media. And as it is a learning purpose you're using, you want to go for a high use of media, videos, graphics, photos. Whatever you can have that is not text would be very much appreciated by everybody who needs to study those standard operating procedures. So high use of media, level of detail depends pretty much on what you want to achieve and how standardized and how detail-oriented your process really is, right? So let's say this is our onboarding standard operating procedure. If you want to ensure a consistent level of quality with your standard operating procedures, you probably are a bit more on the detail side of things, but your use of media might be a bit lower depending on what you need to convey, because you're pretty much documenting an existing process that everybody should know, but you probably can go a bit lower on your use of media. So I would suggest something like this for quality related standard operating procedures. Let's say you have grown quite a bit. You have a capable team that figures stuff out on their own, but you arrive at a point where you're not really sure how your company actually operates and you want to create transparency. This is the third reason we usually see when clients approach us with a need for standard operating procedures. So for transparency, I would suggest level of detail depends on how you want to proceed with those standard operating procedures, but the use of media can be rather low because it's really just about documenting a status quo and it's for your use or for your leadership team's use. So we could rather be somewhere here, and this is a magnifying glass for transparency. If you want to engage in process improvement efforts, standard operating procedures should be your starting point. And for this purpose, I'd suggest you really go very high on the level of detail, because usually in the details is where the magic lies in terms of process improvement. And you don't need much media because it's a working tool that you use to improve the processes, right? So you don't need tutorial videos or stuff like that. So I would say process improvements are somewhere here. And again, every iteration you do should be documented in new standard operating procedures, because you want to get better as you go, right? Each version of the process should serve as best practice until there's a better one, right? So you go iteratively up with your standard operating procedures. Same thing might be for process design. So you're not improving existing processes, but you want to design new processes. Your standard operating procedures can be a very great tool to structure your thought process, because if you already have SOPs in place, you might just use the structure of your existing SOPs as a template for the new process. So might as well be somewhere around here. Level of detail probably not as high as for process improvement, because you don't know the process yet, right? And last but not least, you might want to look into process documentation by standard operating procedures if you want to A, get certified, or B, want to start your company, right? In a due diligence, a potential buyer will certainly look at your processes and then answer, my people know what they're doing will not be enough. So you want to have documented processes for that. But as it's really more like a reference book that you're creating here for the certification or for due diligence, you probably are somewhere rather on the lower end of use of media and of level of detail. The reality is that most of those use cases are combined. So you want to create standard operating procedures that you can use for any of those use cases, right? But it makes sense to think about what the purpose is of your standard operating procedure, and you probably will arrive with their standard operating procedures somewhere in this area where you have like a good use of media but not excessively, and a great level of detail that is just right and not too much and not too little, right? But think about, when you start creating standard operating procedures, what is my purpose? What am I aiming at? And based on this, decide on your use of media and on your level of detail. So thanks for watching this. If you have questions, contact us via direct message or via email. And yeah, happy to have you in this video, and talk soon. Bye, Benjamin.